I couldn't move. The words on the paper in front of me blurred as my hands started to shake. The financial advisor from Meridian Credit Union, a woman named Patricia Chen, sat across from me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Concern? Sympathy? I didn't know. All I knew was that 3 months after burying my wife Linda, I thought I was simply coming in to close out her accounts and settle her estate. I was wrong. Mr. Brennan, Patricia said carefully, I need you to understand something before we continue. This isn't a standard account closure. When we ran the audit on your late wife's accounts, we found something that requires your immediate attention. My 2 sons sat on either side of me. James, my eldest at 32, was a high school teacher in Vancouver. Colin, 28, worked as a paramedic here in Winnipeg. They'd both taken time off to help me navigate this final administrative nightmare of grief. We'd already been to the lawyer, the insurance company, and now the credit union. This was supposed to be the last stop. What kind of something? James asked, his voice carrying that protective edge he'd developed since Linda's death. Patricia slid a printed statement across the desk. For the past 24 years, your wife maintained a separate account. From this account, she made monthly transfers of $2,900 to a woman named Rebecca Ashford. I did the math automatically. 24 years, 12 months a year, $2,900 each month. My breath caught in my throat. $836,000. Over $800,000 to someone I'd never heard of. Who was Rebecca Ashford? Colin asked the question I couldn't form. We don't know, Patricia admitted. The transfers were automatic, set up in January of 2002. They've continued without interruption until... She paused delicately. Until 3 weeks ago, when the system flagged the account due to inactivity following Mrs. Brennan's passing. Linda had died of a sudden heart attack in early November. We'd been married for 36 years. We'd built a life together, raised 2 wonderful sons, survived my mother's Alzheimer's, Linda's breast cancer scare, Colin's motorcycle accident. We'd made it through everything together, or so I thought. There's more, Patricia continued. 3 days ago, Rebecca Ashford contacted us. She knew about Linda's death. She's been trying to reach you, Mr. Brennan. She wants to meet with you and your sons. The room felt smaller suddenly. James shifted beside me, and I could feel the tension radiating off him. Colin's jaw was set in that way it got when he was trying not to show emotion. Dad, James said quietly, you don't have to do this right now. We can get a lawyer. We can. No. My voice sounded stranger to my own ears. Hollow. I need to know. I need to know who this woman is, and why Linda. I couldn't finish the sentence. Patricia nodded slowly. Rebecca is willing to meet wherever you're comfortable. She said she understands this must be a shock. She said. Patricia looked down at her notes. She said she never wanted it to happen this way. That Linda made her promise never to reach out while she was alive. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the bed I'd shared with Linda for 3 decades, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through possibilities I didn't want to consider. An affair? But for 24 years? And why would Linda pay her? Blackmail? That seemed even more impossible. Linda was the most honest, straightforward person I'd ever known. She couldn't keep a surprise birthday party secret for more than 2 days. I got up and went to Linda's office, the small room off our bedroom where she'd managed the household finances, worked on her quilting patterns, and kept her endless collection of mystery novels. I'd barely touched anything since she died. Her reading glasses were still on the desk next to a half-finished crossword puzzle. I started going through her files. Bank statements, bills, tax returns. Everything was meticulously organized, as I'd expected. Linda was nothing if not organized. But I found nothing about Rebecca Ashford. Nothing about a separate account. It was as if this entire part of my wife's life had existed in a parallel dimension. Around 3 in the morning, James found me there, surrounded by papers. Dad, you need to sleep. I can't. I looked up at my son, saw Linda's eyes looking back at me, and felt something crack in my chest. How did I not know? How did I live with someone for 36 years and not know she was sending nearly $3,000 a month to a stranger? James sat down on the floor next to me. Maybe there's an explanation. Maybe it's not what you think. What am I supposed to think? I asked, and I heard the bitterness in my voice. Your mother kept this secret for almost a quarter century. $800,000, James. That's our retirement. That's money we could have used when you needed help with your student loans. when Colin was in the hospital after the accident. We made it through, James said quietly. We always made it through, but had we? Or had Linda been carrying something all this time? Something so heavy she couldn't share it even with me. 2 days later, I sat in a coffee shop in Osborne Village, with James and Colin flanking me like bodyguards. We'd arrived early, claimed a corner table, and I'd already gone through 2 cups of coffee despite my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the mug. You don't have to do this, Colin said for the 3rd time. Yes, I do. At exactly 2 o'clock, the door opened, and a woman walked in. She was in her mid-40s, dark-haired, with Linda's same careful way of moving. She spotted us immediately, and I saw her take a deep breath before walking over. Mr. Brennan, I'm Rebecca Ashford. Up close, I could see she'd been crying. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she clutched a worn canvas bag like a lifeline. Please, I managed. Sit down. She sat across from us, and for a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Rebecca reached into her bag and pulled out a photograph. She slid it across the table. It showed 2 young women, maybe early 20s, arms around each other, laughing at the camera. One of them was unmistakably Linda, though younger than I'd ever known her. The other was also Rebecca, or at least looked enough like her to be the same person 20-some years ago. Your wife was my mother's best friend, Rebecca said quietly. They met in university. They were inseparable. Your wife was going to be my godmother. Was going to be. Past tense. I felt the first stirrings of understanding, and with it, a cold dread. What happened? James asked, his voice gentle. Rebecca's hands trembled as she pulled out another photograph. This one showed 3 people. Young Linda, the other woman, and a man. That's my mother, Diane Montgomery. And that's my father, Thomas Ashford. They got married the summer after university. Linda was the maid of honor. She set down a 3rd photograph. A baby. That's me. Born in March of 1987. My mother was so happy. Your wife told me she'd never seen anyone so ready to be a mother. I looked at the photo of the tiny infant, at the date stamped on the back, and felt my throat tighten. My mother had postpartum depression, Rebecca continued, and her voice cracked. But back then, in the late 80s, people didn't talk about it the same way. She didn't tell anyone how bad it was. She was ashamed. She thought she was weak. She thought she was a terrible mother because she couldn't bond with me the way she thought she should. I knew where this was going. I could feel it like a train approaching in the dark. One night, in December of 1987, my mother called Linda. It was 3 in the morning. She told Linda she couldn't do it anymore. She said she was going to end it. Rebecca pulled out a tissue, wiped her eyes. Linda tried to go to her. She got in her car immediately, but she was 2 hours away, visiting her sister in Kenora. She drove as fast as she could, calling my mother the whole way, begging her to wait, to just hold on. But my mother didn't answer. She'd already. Rebecca couldn't finish. Colin reached across the table and gently touched Rebecca's hand. It was such a simple gesture, but it steadied her. Linda found her, Rebecca whispered. She got there just after my father came home from his late shift. She was the one who held him while he fell apart. She was the one who called the ambulance, even though it was too late. And she was the one who picked me up from my crib and held me while the police came. I felt tears on my face but couldn't remember starting to cry. My father couldn't handle it, Rebecca continued. The grief, the guilt, the baby that reminded him of everything he'd lost. Within 6 months, he'd given me to his sister in Toronto and disappeared. I haven't seen him since I was 2 years old. His sister raised me, and she did her best, but Rebecca pulled out an envelope, old and yellowed. But Linda never forgot. She visited whenever she could. She sent cards on my birthday. And when I turned 13, she set up that account. Why didn't she tell me? The question burst out of me. Why keep it secret? Rebecca looked at me with such sadness. Because she was afraid. She told me once, years later, that she blamed herself for my mother's death. That if she'd answered her phone the first time my mother called, or if she'd somehow known earlier, or if she'd been a better friend, maybe my mother would still be alive. She carried that guilt every single day. That's ridiculous, James said sharply. None of that was her fault. I know that, Rebecca said, and I told her that 1,000 times. But she couldn't forgive herself, and she was terrified that if she told you, Mr. Brennan, you'd think she was choosing me over her own family. That you'd see the money and think it was an obligation or a burden instead of what it really was. What was it? I asked. Love, Rebecca said simply. She loved my mother, and she loved me. Not because she had to, but because she couldn't help it. She told me once that I was the daughter her heart knew, even if her body didn't give birth to me. When she couldn't have more children after Colin, she said I was the gift that came from the worst tragedy she'd ever known. The coffee shop felt too quiet. I became aware of other conversations around us. The hiss of the espresso machine, the bell over the door. Normal life continuing while my understanding of my marriage, of my wife, shifted beneath me. I never asked her for money, Rebecca said urgently, leaning forward. When I turned 18, I told her to stop. I was in university, working part-time, making it work, but she wouldn't. She said it wasn't about what I needed. It was about what she needed to do, about honoring my mother's memory, about making sure Diane's daughter had every opportunity. She pulled out a thick folder. I kept records, every single payment. I want to return it, all of it. I have investments. I have savings. I never needed this much. I took it because refusing hurt her more than accepting, but I always knew it wasn't really mine. It belonged to your family. No, the word came out stronger than I expected. No, Rebecca, that money was Linda's to give. If she wanted you to have it, then it's yours. But your retirement is fine, I said firmly, even though my hands were still shaking. We managed. We always managed. And now I understand why Linda was always so careful with money, why she never wanted to take expensive vacations or buy a bigger house. She had someone else to think about. Rebecca broke down then, covering her face with her hands. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you found out this way. She made me promise not to tell you while she was alive. She was going to tell you herself when she retired. She had it all planned. She was going to bring me to meet you finally, to explain everything. But then Linda's heart gave out while she was grocery shopping one Tuesday afternoon. She'd been reaching for her favorite brand of tea when she collapsed, gone before the ambulance arrived. We didn't get goodbye. We didn't get closure. We didn't get any of the things you're supposed to get. I need to know something, I said. Did she love me? Us? Or were we just the life she had while she wished for something else? Rebecca looked at me with shock. Mr. Brennan, she loved you more than anything. Every time I saw her, she talked about you, about James becoming a teacher, about Colin saving lives, about the garden you planted together, about your Saturday morning walks. She showed me pictures constantly. She was so proud of her family. She pulled out one more item from her bag, a letter, sealed, with my name on it in Linda's handwriting. She gave this to me 2 years ago. She said if anything ever happened to her before she could tell you herself, I should give it to you. I couldn't do it at the funeral. I couldn't walk up to you when you were burying your wife and hand you a letter that would upend everything. But I can't keep it anymore. I stared at the envelope. Linda's handwriting. Linda's words. The explanation I'd been desperate for, but I couldn't open it. Not yet. Not here. Tell me about her, I said instead. Tell me about the Linda you knew, the parts of her I never saw, and Rebecca did. For the next 2 hours, sitting in that coffee shop while my coffee went cold and the afternoon light shifted through the windows, Rebecca told us stories. About Linda showing up to her high school graduation with flowers. About Linda teaching her to drive when her aunt was too nervous. About Linda helping her move into her first apartment, into her second apartment, celebrating when Rebecca got her job as a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital. She came to the hospital on her birthday this year, Rebecca said softly. September 23rd. It was the last time I saw her. She brought me lunch, and we sat in the cafeteria, and she told me about the retirement party you were planning for her. She was so excited. She kept saying, finally, I can bring my two worlds together. Finally, everyone I love can know about each other. I opened the letter that night, alone in our bedroom. Linda's handwriting swam before my eyes. My dearest Robert, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you've met Rebecca. I'm so sorry. I wanted to be there when you found out. I wanted to see your face when you met her, to hold your hand while I explained everything. I wanted to do this right, but I'm writing this just in case I don't get that chance. I need you to know that every choice I made out of love. Not obligation, not guilt. Love. When Diane died, something in me broke. We'd been planning to raise our children together, to be the kind of friends who grew old side by side. And then she was gone, and I was left holding her baby, and I couldn't save her. I know what you're thinking because I thought it too. Why didn't I tell you? Robert, I was afraid. Afraid you'd think I was replacing the children we couldn't have. Afraid you'd resent Rebecca for the money. Afraid you'd see my love for her as taking something away from James and Colin. But it never did. My heart was big enough for all of you. The money wasn't charity. It was my way of making sure that Diane's daughter had everything Diane would have given her. Every birthday, every Christmas, every milestone, I thought, what would Diane want for her? And I tried to provide it. I know I should have told you. I know keeping secrets isn't what marriage is supposed to be. But sometimes we protect the people we love by carrying things alone, even when we shouldn't have to. I was wrong about that. I'm sorry. Please don't be angry with Rebecca. She wanted me to tell you 1,000 times. She never understood why I couldn't. But I hope now that you've met her, you'll understand why I loved her. She's everything good about Diane. She's kind and strong and has dedicated her life to helping children. She became everything her mother hoped she would be, and I got to watch it happen. I love you, Robert. I loved you when we met. I loved you when we married. And I love you now, wherever I am. James and Colin are my heart. You are my soul. Rebecca is the piece of Diane that survived. You don't have to choose. Love isn't a finite resource. It grows to fill the space you give it. Please take care of her. Not because you have to, but because she's family. Because she's part of my story. And I'm part of yours. Forever yours, Linda. I read the letter 3 times. Then I went to find James and Colin, who were sitting in the living room, both pretending to watch television while clearly waiting for me. Your mother loved a woman named Diane Montgomery like a sister, I said. And when Diane died, your mother made sure her daughter never forgot she was loved. For 24 years, she kept that promise. I told them everything Rebecca had told us. About the friendship, about the depression, about the tragedy, about how Linda had tried to save Diane and couldn't, about how she'd spent decades making sure Rebecca had the life her mother couldn't give her. Dad, Colin said carefully when I finished, how do you feel about all this? I thought about it, really thought about it. I'm sad, I admitted. Sad that Linda felt she had to carry this alone. Sad that she didn't trust me to understand. Sad that I never got to see this part of her. Never got to know Rebecca while Linda was alive to share her with us. But, James prompted, but I'm also proud, I said. Proud that my wife was the kind of person who would honor a friendship that way. Who would love a child not her own with that kind of commitment. Who would make sacrifices for 24 years without ever asking for recognition or praise. I looked at my sons, saw them processing this, and continued. Your mother taught you both to be kind, to be giving, to think of others. She lived those values even when we didn't know it. She was teaching us right up until the end. 3 weeks later, Rebecca came to dinner at our house. I'd invited her, and she'd accepted hesitantly, still worried about intruding. But when she walked through the door, I hugged her, and I felt her whole body relax. Welcome home, I said. We spent the evening looking at photographs. I showed Rebecca pictures of Linda she'd never seen. Our wedding. Linda pregnant with James. Linda teaching Colin to ride a bike. The trip to Prince Edward Island for our 25th anniversary. Rebecca showed us pictures too. Linda at Rebecca's nursing school graduation. Linda holding Rebecca's friend's baby with such joy on her face. Linda at the hospital, wearing scrubs as a volunteer, reading to sick children alongside Rebecca. She told me once, Rebecca said as we looked through the photos, that she had 3 children, James, Colin, and me, that we were all hers in different ways, but all hers completely. Colin wiped his eyes. I wish we'd known her. I wish she'd told us. Me too, Rebecca said, but I understand why she didn't. She was trying to protect everyone. That's what she did. She protected people. James looked at me. What happens now? I've been thinking about that question for weeks. Now we do what Linda would want. We're family. Rebecca is your sister. Not by blood, but by choice. Linda chose her. And now I'm choosing her too. We all are. Rebecca started crying again, but this time they were different tears. I don't know what to say. Say you'll come for Christmas, I told her. Say you'll bring that pediatric expertise when James and his wife have their baby in March. Say you'll be part of this family the way you were always meant to be. And she did. She said yes to all of it. It's been 6 months now since I found out about Rebecca. 6 months since my understanding of my marriage transformed. I won't lie and say it was easy. There were nights I was angry, feeling betrayed by the secret. There were moments I mourned the Linda I thought I knew. There were times I wondered what else I might not have known. But here's what I learned. Love isn't about knowing everything. It's about choosing to see the best in someone, even when you discover they were human and flawed and carrying burdens you never imagined. Linda made choices I wouldn't have made. She kept secrets I wish she hadn't kept. But she did it all out of love. Misguided perhaps, but love nonetheless. Rebecca is part of our lives now. She comes to Sunday dinners. She was there when James and his wife welcomed their daughter. She and Colin text constantly, sharing nursing stories and dark medical humor. She calls me Dad sometimes, tentatively, and every time she does, I hear Linda's voice saying, "My heart was big enough for all of you." I visit Linda's grave every week. I bring flowers, sit on the bench nearby, and talk to her. I tell her about Rebecca, about how the boys have accepted her, about the grandchild she didn't live to meet. I tell her I understand now. I tell her I wish she'd trusted me, but I understand why she didn't. And I tell her I forgive her, for the secrets, for the fear, for being human, because that's what love does. It forgives, it adapts, it grows to fill the space you give it, just like Linda said. If you're reading this, and you're carrying a secret because you're afraid, let me tell you what I learned. The people who truly love you can handle more than you think. They can handle complexity. They can handle difficult truths. They can handle your humanity. What they can't handle is losing the chance to support you while you're still here. Linda robbed us of that chance. She robbed herself of the relief of sharing her burden. She robbed Rebecca of years of knowing her father's family. She robbed James and Colin of a sister they could have grown up with. But she also gave us something precious. A lesson in love that transcends biology, in loyalty that survives death, in commitment that asks for nothing in return. She showed us that family isn't just who you're born to. It's who you choose, who you sacrifice for, who you hold in your heart, even when the world doesn't know they're there. Rebecca has Linda's eyes, or maybe Diane's, I'm not sure. But when she smiles, I see my wife. I see the friend who couldn't save her best friend, but spent 24 years making sure that friend's legacy lived on. I see love in its purest form, not demanding, not seeking recognition, just quietly, persistently present. That's the Linda I didn't fully know. But I know her now, and I love her more, not less, for the secret she kept. We're all flawed. We all carry things we're afraid to share. We all make choices that seem right in the moment but might look different in hindsight. The question is, will we let those flaws divide us, or will we let them teach us? I choose to let them teach us. I choose to honor Linda by doing what she couldn't quite do herself, bringing together all the people she loved and letting them love each other. I choose to believe that somewhere, somehow, she knows we're together, that Diane knows her daughter is safe and loved, that they're both at peace. And I choose to move forward with a family that's bigger and more complicated than I ever imagined, but also more beautiful, because that's what Linda would want. That's what love requires. Not perfection, just presence, just the willingness to see someone fully, flaws and all, and say, I choose you anyway. I choose us. I choose love.